Hey guys, welcome back to NiteCap. I'm sure you guys are enjoying these conversations as much as I am. This upcoming episode is an episode that is very personal. It's very engaging for me as I for the first time invite a politician on the NiteCap set. As he sets out to convince his constituents to basically vote for a $60 million obligation bond, why I find this topic very insightful, very important, is because it's a common theme on the show that I explore, the theme of accountability and taking ownership. And my belief that we are all the writers of our own chapters. We are all the architects of our own house. And I'm curious to see what the community of Miami Gardens thinks. This is a city that's been 10 years old. It's a new city. It's a city that basically Miami Gardens can be whatever the people of Miami Gardens wants it to be. So is the mayor saying that since it's your city, you need to invest in it and build it up? Or the critics saying, no, that's not our problem. You know, you're here to man the city, you man the city, and you find a way to allocate funds to get this ship sailing. I'm very, very curious to see what the general outlook on that issue is. Because I think we live in a society where accountability, everyone wants something, but is everyone willing to make the sacrifice to have it, or rely on someone else to make that sacrifice? What do you think? Tune into this conversation and please share your thoughts. I don't think there's a right or there's a wrong. I only think, like I like to say on NiteCap, it's the truth. And the truth will set us all free. The truth is a healer. So please visit IamPeterBay.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel at NiteCap with Peter. Enjoy. Just real people, real convo. I'm Peter Bailey, and after my time with LL Cool J at Jazz in the Gardens, I headed to Miami Gardens City Hall to share a nightcap with the mayor, Oliver Gilbert. We discussed his role as a champion of this ever-growing working-class city, but whose story he believes will inevitably be narrated by the people themselves. Mayor.
How you doing, Peter?
Mayor, we were talking about, we're in a phase in our community, in our history, where I think we have the tools now to stop being reactionary to issues in our community and now take ownership and control our own space and write our own chapter. With the $60 million fund you're asking for the community to invest in, was that some of the inspiration behind that?
Peter, it was almost all inspiration. Look, I grew up here, and you know, we have the ability to take it in our own hands now, but that comes, it's kind of scary because when you have the ability to do it, then you're responsible. So we've been so used to blaming other people that sometimes we don't get into the fact that we have the ability to control our destiny. And so when we say we don't have enough activities on our parks for our kids, so they're getting in trouble, well, let's give them the activities. We say that public safety is an issue. Okay, you know, we're going to use technology that works in other places, let's make it work here. But we need to be the people who control our destiny. And so what I said is, look, I'm not waiting for Washington. They're crazy up there. Tallahassee's difficult. The county is problematic. I'm not going to blame white people, Hispanic people, Republicans. What I'm going to say is the people in this community that have always come together to do extraordinary things, we can do this. We can do it for ourselves. We've invested in everyone else except for us. It's time for us to do that.
But you know, Mayor, we talked off the cuff. It seems that one of the biggest obstacles to any growth in our community is apathy, in the selling of hope. To be honest, do you think sometimes we as a people, even in my personal life, a lot of things you dream about something and it just doesn't happen, so you believe that failure is a stick. You know, it's synonymous with being in our space. How do you be an idealist in that space? Because we are not idealists as a people.
You know what? It's interesting. Before we were talking off camera, I think the last thing I said was the two posters I have up on the wall, campaign posters back here. Janet Reno and my first run at the city council, both elections that I lost. They're both, I lost those elections. But I didn't stop believing in the things that we fought for in her campaign, the idea that of community, the idea that we could come together to do great things. And I didn't stop thinking of believing in the things that I fought for in my campaign either, which is those same principles. And so I just kept going. We're not going to always be successful. Sometimes we live in this a fast food type of, you drive up, you order your
instant
success, and then you get it.
Right?
Yeah, that's not how that works. Success isn't a moment. It's a series of moments strung together, woven throughout time, and laced throughout there is effort, it's energy, it's hope, it's enthusiasm, it's faith.
Yeah.
It's the ability to keep going and doing something, even if you don't get the instant gratification, understanding that in time, it will come. I'm the mayor because I did not give up. I would not concede that my voice wasn't something didn't have something positive to offer this community. I didn't have direction that could be given, so I just kept trying.
What I find fascinating about the initiative is that you speak about the fund going to a media center to foster the arts. Right now, we have arguably the most prolific rap artist in pop culture, Rick Ross, who's a Cal City native, flow rider. You know, so we have this city. Honestly, arguably, Miami is. I know you're hip, man. I know you listen to the music and whatnot.
Yeah.
Miami right now is the epicenter of the pop cultural universe. Yep. And I think what's fascinating with Jazz in the Gardens, you had Jamie Foxx, LL Cool J. These people actually descended in this. You know, when you think about Miami Gardens, it's not Atlanta. Do you think that there can be a renaissance to get this city there? Oh,
absolutely. And it's interesting you brought up Rick and Flo. Flo Rida is actually a friend of mine, and he's helpful with the bond effort because he's always here when he's in South Florida, out on our parks with our kids, actually trying to talk to them about how he became successful. And it's not just how much hard work it takes. And yet we can create that type of epicenter for art and music here. But the very first thing we have to do is to believe that we can. We have to believe that we're something more than people tell us. Right now, people have told us what our story is. And even if it's contrary to what we know, you have people who walk around, who go to work every day, who have been successful, who have sent kids to college. People tell them that they're poor. And they just believe it. They believe they're poor. No, this community can have the things that other communities can have. And Jazz in the Gardens is a perfect example of that. When Mayor Shirley Gibson started, people thought it was a fool's errand. They complained. It was 1,500 people. It was, no one's going to come out. 60,000 people later. The fastest growing, festival of its type. We can't keep people away from it now. It was her idea, and it was the persistence of subsequent councils to say we can help to reshape this city as a destination spot. So what happened, what started
Miami is the third largest black city.
It's the third largest city in the county. It's the largest black city south of Atlanta.
It's south of Atlanta.
Yeah, we're the working class black city. We're the people who
I saw you say it's a working class dreams. You wrote that in a column.
Because sometimes, you look at the news and people say, oh, the crime, that's all they show is the crime.
But that's the thing. I think the issue is like anywhere in South Florida. I go to the Joseph Caleb Center. Something nice. It's a great center. It's safe. I feel safe. I think that there's a stereotype of Miami Gardens. You come to Miami Gardens, you don't know what is going to happen. We discuss taking ownership. Do you accept that crime is something? I've always believed that crime is caused by something.
Oh, yeah.
Idle hands, biblical stuff. Your mother said, I think it's a Bible verse, idle hands lead to the devil's work. Fostering opportunities, economic opportunities, because we talked about off the cuff about kids want something to believe in. The problem with the inner city, when I was growing up, I thought the dope boy was cool because that was what I saw tangibly. The black doctors and the surgeons, they weren't in it. I didn't see that. So tangibly, kids in Miami Gardens, if D-Boy in the corner has the Benz, that's their idea of success. How do you fight that? Because How do you fight that?
With people like
that
you,
psychology.
with people like you and me, and with visibility, a lot of times people get successful, they become successful, and they're not around anymore. I spend a lot of time on our parks with our kids, in our schools with our kids. I was at Norland Middle this week talking to them about FCAP preparation, and one of the things I said was, I'm never going to tell you that you have to be one thing. I'm going to tell you that you have to obey the law, be a good person. But your imagination, it can be expansive because the world is created by people with imaginations. So I said, look, I'm a person who played football in high school, but I was also a poet.
Your intellect.
Yeah.
So if the black guy is not supposed to be writing poetry.
And it's always funny. People say, oh, you're so articulate. Well, I'm a lawyer who graduated from the University of Miami School of Law with honors. I should be articulate. I should be. These are things that happen. I want them to see that I can be on the parks with them. I can hang out. I can cheer for them. We can get up there. We can dance together. We can have fun. Yeah. But ultimately, you can still be the person who does well in school academically, and you can still pursue dreams. You can still imagine. You can build something greater than what you have. And I think it's always important for kids. You know, we have these kids who tell me that they want to be football players. Yeah. And I always think it's interesting because I heard somebody say, oh, only one in such and such.
You go to those schools, and that's all these kids think they can do.
Peter, what I say, if you want to be a football player, listen, don't tell me what your 40 time is. Tell me what your FCAT score was, what you got in math, English, science, because the one sure thing we know about every football player in the NFL is that they went to somebody's college. They went to somebody's college. Yeah. So if you really want to be a football player, don't tell me how fast you are. Tell me what classes you're taking. Tell me how well you're doing. Because ultimately, if you want to do this, you have to do all of this. And what will happen is, if those kids really want to be football players and they really pursue the academic path to get them into college, they may never make it to the NFL. But they may wake up one morning and realize they have a college degree and they transform their life just because they wanted to be a football player. We can pull positivity out of almost anything if we stop and talk to these kids. When I talk to kids about wanting to be rappers, look, Flo Rida's a good guy. He's a rapper. He's very.
But let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. We have pop culture, and every time I have rappers on the show, I tell them, look, you have this voice. You know, I speak to the young people, and young people will tell you right now, hip-hop, these guys are the new rock stars. You go to colleges, white kids, suburban kids, inner city kids, these guys are the voice. Rick Ross and these guys, how do you combat the fact that lyrically, this content is saying I'm a dope boy and I'm cool? And you being the conduit with Flo Rida's ear, how do you bridge that gap?
Well, with Flo Rida's ear, his music doesn't. He doesn't really say that.
Let's take Flo off the table.
Flo doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. But you know what's interesting is I think that of course I've heard the songs and the message is completely wrong. But when I was growing up and we were growing up, there were songs with bad messages too. I'm always hesitant to say don't make your music. I think that we've had bad music and bad musical and bad artistic influences all our lives. I think the difference isn't in the music or the artistic, the external things that come in. I think the difference is in the fact that parents aren't more...
The balance of telling kids this is just entertainment.
Now the parents believe the songs too. So the problem is that the kids believe the songs. Kids have always done that. When you're growing up, if you were going back and you listen to some of the things that Elvis Presley and some of those...
Rockers.
Yeah, they weren't saying things that were particularly positive, but you had parents at home saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. So you were able to differentiate. Now you have parents who believe the rap songs. And so, because we have younger parents. So the part of the problem is music, but a huge part of the problem is family. How we're raising, or you know what, how we're allowing them to grow up. Because I don't want to use the word raising, because when you raise a child, it's something else.
Exactly.
Allowing them to grow up. It's just a function of time. Time will grow you up. Time will get you older. That's all it is.
And mayor, but the harsh truth is, any mayor of a working class, predominantly black community, in a sense, is going to be the father of that community. We talked about how the time you spend with different kids. 'Cause let's just put the cards on the table. A lot of our kids are growing up in single-parent homes.
It was sad, Peter. At the same school, a kid asked me. He said, well, why can't the city do something to let my old boy out of jail, so that he could be a father to me? And the audience, the kids, the auditorium full of kids, it got purely silent. It was pure silence. And I said, you know what? I don't know what your father did to get sent away. And I hope that whatever it is, it wasn't too bad, and I hope that he can get out soon and you all can reconnect. But understand this, that there are people who are here for you, not just me. We have, and not just the men in the city or the 5,000 role models, but independent of all of that, we've had single parent households for a very long time. And independent of whether you have a father there, at some point, you're gonna have to make a decision that I don't want this. I want something better. There's gonna have to be something in you that makes this choice. So yeah, you can, I gave him my card here, this is my number. You can call me, you can email me, we can connect. But ultimately, what I'm gonna tell you to do is, I'm gonna give you advice, but the choice has to be yours. We need to have people making a choice, because we have products of single family homes who go on to be doctors and lawyers and scientists, and they can be successful. But it's important not to allow it to be your reason not to be successful.
That point you bring up, man, it just made me think of something. The fact is, a lot of our young people view men in positions of politics, law enforcement, in a negative light. Yeah. They took my father away.
Yes.
How do you reach the kid that is looking at you as part of that machine that has my father locked?
Be as genuine as possible. I'm not just, the mayor. I used to be a prosecutor.
Wow.
I used to be a prosecutor. I mean,
how would this be a black prosecutor?
I mean, honestly? You know what? I approached it from this perspective. About that. I always never forget who you are, never forget where you come from. Always approach things from a very human perspective. You want to strike the balance of protecting community, because the prosecutors are actually the chief law enforcement officers, but you also want to understand that life happens. In the midst of life happening, you want to punish but not over-punish. I have people who were going to prison. I was sending them to prison. I was making a recommendation, they were going to prison. And I would talk, when the mothers would come in invariably and say he's not a bad son, and I was like, you know what, I don't know how good or bad he is. This is what I know. I know he did something, and I'm punishing the act, not the actor. The deed, not the doer. So for what he did, he has to be punished. But understand that he will have an ability to rehabilitate himself, and he will have an ability to get out and actually change his life. He can do that. But when I'm trying to connect with kids and they see me, what I find is that kids see through crap more easily than other people. Be genuine. Just answer the question. Just tell them what it is. Hey, you know what? No, you can't do that. And so when I'm connecting with them, I don't. We can play around. They have this footage out me running races on parks with kids. I lost, but it is what it is. I'm not fleet of foot anymore. Get you in shape. I know. I mean, I blame it on my age, but it wasn't the age. It was the Krispy Kreme donuts a long time ago. It was that. So, but it's be genuine with them, because that connection will allow you to talk to them in places and in ways that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do.
Because, man, I'll be honest. As much as being an educated guy, as much as following that lane, me too have had issues with looking at the badge in a positive light. I have a cousin who was a smart kid, A student, we grew up together. Made a mistake, stupid mistake, was sent to a boys' home, and due to a zero tolerance measure for a strike, they sent him to state prison. He's locked up now. When I talked to my cousin, he's like, and it's the truth, his life was over before it began. And it's a systematic culture of destroying a lot of young black males' lives. And that's why on the topic of how do you crack down on law, but still in a psychology of love. I'm putting these handcuffs on you, but it's not to shackle you, it's to rehabilitate you.
Well, we have to change the system generally, but the first thing you can do as officers and prosecutors, when I talk to our officers, what I say is this: you're going to meet people, and it's going to be probably the worst day of their life. Either they are being, accused of a crime, the victim of a crime, have been in an accident. When people call the police, they don't call the police to say, I just hope you're having a good day. That's not why they call the police. So it's going to be a stressful situation. You may have to deliver to someone the worst news of their life. A loved one has been injured. You're going to jail. It might be the worst news of their life. You don't have to be rude, disrespectful. You don't have to be aggressive. Look, if they're going to jail, no matter what they say to you, this not going to change the handcuffs that you're putting on them. They're going to jail.
Yeah.
You can enforce the law and still be a respecter of persons. That's the first thing. Customer service, even in law enforcement. I did as a prosecutor. I sent people to prison, and I gave their mothers hugs.
I always wondered about that, man.
And you know what's funny about prosecutors and police officers? We actually need more people who are from the community to be police officers. More people to be prosecutors.
I understand the nuances of
prosecutorial discretion. Look, you can't say, oh, you're not going to jail for this, but you can look at things from a way that there's balance. Yes, you have to be punished for breaking the law, but also in context, this is what happened, and you can help. We need more people in those positions, not fewer. We need more black police officers, not fewer. One of the things that we're emphasizing here in the city is actually hiring people who live here to be police officers here. That is our great human resources endeavor right now, to try to get as many of our residents to be police officers. Because I want not to just have community policing, but have the community being policed by people from the community, because they already have the relationships. You know exactly what this kid is doing. You have the discretion.
You can stem it before it gets to that point where we gotta lock him up.
If it's not too bad, you take, hey, I'm taking you home to your mama's house, your grandmama's house, your daddy's house. You're going home. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna straighten this out. We're gonna pull you out of this before you get so deep in that we have to deal with you. Because one of the things we know is there's some things that you do that will force us to deal with you. When you have people who start to engage in violence, you will force us to deal with you. We don't want it to evolve to that. So when we talk about the bond is part of pulling them out, stopping them before they get started on the young end. Because we've seen killers, you know, move from being 30 to late 20s to early 20s and now to teens. And so we have to engage these kids. No respect. They don't have a code anymore. You know, it's not.
Before, you taught off the cuff, they'll kill you on a Sunday.
On a Sunday. In front of your mama. Everybody else was supposed to be at church on Sunday. It should never happen. But now you have people, broad daylight, Sunday, shooting, Main Street.
You know, but we put cops in the street. How do we destroy that mentality, though? How do we address that sickness of mind?
Oh, you do it over a period. We didn't get this way overnight. We won't fix it overnight.
Yeah.
It's incremental successes that you don't even notice are successes. So like that kid who I talked to in that auditorium, you know, it's funny that after that answer, that was the only answer that essentially received a standing ovation from the kids. It's connecting with them. It's incremental successes that it's continuous effort. It's continuing to try, because you're going to affect one person and one person and one person. And the ability to affect one person is the ability to change the world. Every major change has come with somebody telling somebody, and we move it together. So we change it one person at a time, but not just by changing one person at a time, but about each of us trying. What's happened is we took our hands off of each other. We stopped hugging each other. We stopped caring.
We're not a village anymore.
Yeah, we're not a village. Right now, people see the village. It's funny when they say the village, and I listen to that quote. I hear people say it all the time. It's always interesting to me, because people say, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. And sometimes I think they forget that they're the village. They're the village. You're the person who's supposed to be helping. So we've changed it to mean that the village is actually the city, or the county, or the state, or the government. But that wasn't the village. The village was the neighbors. It was the grandmother. It was the uncles. It was the friends of the family. It was those people. That was the village.
Man, you don't seem to be a person that likes people talking about a problem as opposed to saying, look, what are you going to do to address this?
I've heard too much of it. I just heard I'm a little over 40. I've been in this community all my life. I've listened to people. I've listened to them. I was a listener. And I've heard them. We have become the best group at identifying problems.
And we have town hall meetings.
Yeah,
and
assigning blame. Yeah, we can identify a problem. We can assign blame better than any group of people. So from my perspective, I want to try to solve problems. It's solution-based leadership. Well, okay, you're telling me what the problem is. I'm telling you these are things that will help. Let's try to solve the problem. Because from my perspective, I hear people criticizing. And Teddy Roosevelt, it's not the critic that counts, not the man who points out where the strong man stumbles or the doer of deeds could have done it better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually doing it. So it's easy to criticize. That's easy. I could do that all day. What's your solution? How would you fix it? And so because we need to start fixing it. we've been criticizing it for years.
I think we've been reacting. Personally, I was at a church, and I remember when I used to write for the Herald, that's where we met way back when I covered the gun laws. I remember going to this church, and I think it was Shadavia Jenkins when she got killed. I remember the minister saying, now she's in a better place. This was God's will. And I walked out the church, and I said, that is the crap that we have fed ourselves in the community. We have justified some idiot killing this little girl. No, she could have grown up to be Michelle Obama. That was not God's will.
I don't think God's will is for any child or a young woman who's carrying a baby or anyone to be killed senselessly. That's.
Don't you think we've made justifications for our own?
We have
problems?
We have. Because, and you know what? It's one of those things when I speak in churches, because that's our root. We're very faithful.
Very religious.
We're very religious.
You're a God-fearing man?
Yeah, absolutely. I was raised by a Southern Baptist preacher,
I'm a
Seventh-day Adventist teacher.
I'm a minister's son as well.
Oh yeah,
that's probably why I was so.
So but I talked to them about the fact that faith without work is dead.
Indeed.
So, you can have all this faith. We can come to church. We can pray about this together. We can march. We can do all these things. But the work is us working with our kids on these parks. It's getting this bond. It's actually us coming together, pooling our resources, and changing it. God has given us the ability to change something. So for us to sit here and say, oh, yeah, God's going to take care of it. He did take care of it. He gave us the ability. That was it. He gives you land to plow. He gives you trees, and you can fertilize them, and fruit will grow. Yeah. He gives you a mind, and you can figure out how to create light without the sun. He gives you the ability to do
buff. Your bracelet, significance.
Yeah, them spiral. As long as I breathe, I hope. And it captures the idea that every day when I wake up, I believe that I can make a difference, and I work towards it. I will not be perfect. I am flawed, but my intentions will be good all the time, and I'm going to work. Old guy tells me about leadership. I become mayor, and he says, leadership is not about always being right. It's about never knowingly being wrong.
Yeah.
Just keep working.
And I'll be honest, man. I can tell you're an idealist. I can tell you your sense of hope is overwhelming. Yeah. But let's be honest. What happens in those moments when any man doubts? There are times I know you go back to your home and you say, these people are getting on my nerves. I don't even know if I can do this.
Oh no, that's every day.
It's every day. There's going to be those moments. But my mom stays 5 minutes from me across from a middle school, and my granddad stays around the corner. Yeah. Right off in the Bajas, we call it, in Miami Gardens. My aunt stays down the street. I went to school at Norland. Man. When I go outside, I see the people who raised me and the people who I was raised with, and I know that when I got involved in public service, I got in public service for them. I'm building the city. My ideas, my effort, my energy. Look, my office is filled with pictures of little Oliver, my son, Oliver IV.
Yeah, I saw that.
I need for there to be a place that he wants to come back to. I need for that to happen. When I was at a community meeting last night talking about the bond, a young lady said, I inherited this house from my grandmother, and I'm going to invest in this community because I want to leave it to my granddaughter. Yeah. I need for that to be something real. Yeah. So yeah, it sometimes because tradition is a strong drawback and holdback, it's difficult. But when it's difficult, I'm reminded by all the people, all the faces, from my mother to my son, to the people who work in the city, who work hard every day, that we can make a difference. We have let go of the idea that we can do big things well. That's why Obamacare is having a problem. We stop thinking that we can do big things well. We can do big things.
I think the mind, power begins in the mind.
Yeah.
And I think that we have been conditioned. We talked about off the cuff. Growing up in our communities, the idea is not you're going to become a creator. You're going to become an architect. I think we have been we see ourselves as workers.
Yeah.
And I think it's the era of becoming architects of who we are.
No, I think you're right. We don't have imagination anymore. We don't have hope. We've been told something. You've been told who you are, and even if you don't believe it, if you know something different, the facts point to something different, you say, oh no, this is who I am. We don't raise our kids with that spirit anymore, and we have generationally done that, and so now we're dealing with the fruit of that labor.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the fruit of that labor. What I'm saying is, let's plant a different tree.
And finally, this is the home of Trayvon.
Yes.
You know, this is this small city. I think 110,000 people have been forced under social conscience. When you're done, if you are done, like I said, I always believe, you know, if we just disappear tomorrow, what chapter should Miami Gardens leave on the national psyche? The story of Miami Gardens, I think it's beginning, or we're not even close to it ending. Yeah. Where do you see it going, the story?
We're going to be a portrait of successful, competent, good black governance. We're going to do that. We're going to be the idea that we can do things well for us. We're going to be the idea that we can transform something, that an area that was neglected by the county for years can come together, pool their resources, their ideas, their energies, their efforts, and they can change directions. We're going to show people that we can change something. You know, and it's going to be not just how a city functions, because the city is different from the community. Yeah. The city is a department with cars and employees. The community is the city plus the preachers, plus the businesses, plus the residents, plus the schools. It's how we work together. Yeah. We're going to be the portrait of a community that can change itself, that can transform itself, that can change its directory, that can change its direction. We are going to do that. That is, so when I get discouraged,
because I know you do.
I don't know anybody with more willpower than me. I won't quit. I will not quit. We will.
They're gonna have to take you on a stretcher.
This is
you're gonna die trying.
Because you know what? If we can't do it in Miami Gardens, we might not be able to do it. We have an educated population of people who own their homes.
We have the best weather in America.
Yeah. You know, this is Miami Gardens. Yeah. We're not what you think we are, and if you give us a chance, we'll show you.
I always like to believe that the reality we believe in is stronger than the ones, and more real than the ones put out to us.
Well, I'm happy that we're doing this, because hopefully someone will watch it and we can start to redefine their reality, because we're not the Miami Gardens that you only see on TV when someone's killed. You know, if you let the newspapers tell it and the television said, you know, you would think that homicides went up, and in fact they went down. In fact, they went down. It's a strange thing that them telling the story becomes truer and more important than what actually happened.
The truth is, most homicides in the inner city, I hate to be blunt, but it occurs with targeted individuals who are in a certain lifestyle.
Yes. It does.
You know, Susie Homemaker is not getting her head blown off walking down the street. It happens.
It happens, but most times, and when you have an innocent who's
that doesn't
killed,
make it good, though.
Nothing makes it good. And we went down, but we still need to reduce homicides more, because there's still way too many. But I make the point that, you know, when you were growing up and your parents would say, you know, birds have fed the flock together. You know, it was something simple. We all take it for granted. But one of the things that, if you're hanging out with people and someone comes to kill that people, you might get shot.
You might get shot as well.
You might get shot. So be careful, people.
There's a young kid I mentor, I told you about, and the main problem we have with him is that when he's with me in our space, he's good. When he has to go back to that neighborhood, he has to be something else to survive. I guess finally, you know, man, I just believe, like I said, I believe that in many ways, the onus of a black politician in a working class community is you have to play parent sometimes.
Yeah.
And I would hope to believe that if Miami Gardens is a neighborhood and it's your house, that little kid I mentor doesn't feel terrified to go back to his house.
No, it was, and I would hope that too. And that's part of our goal, creating a space where you're comfortable being different, where you're comfortable being smart.
Because he's artistic, so he gets picked on.
And that's why I try to tell kids all the time, I actually write poetry. I write poetry.
I gotta read some of it. I'm gonna write on my side. I gotta read some of it.
It's from you know, stuff like Entrance, Cry Baby Cry. This is the alpha, the first beginning. Your soul's name is Tandy Timmy. Zulu for love and hope.
Indeed.
you know, to poems that are just meant to impress girls. I mean, it's just,
You're a single guy, right?
I am a single guy, yeah. But
There's a man in power. There's a lot of.
We're not going to have that,
We're not gonna have that
monogamy conversation. We're not going to talk any of that. We're not, that thing, Ocho Cinco? I'm not about that life.
But you're not about
no, I'm not about that life. No.
You're a God-fearing, 2 feet on the man, 2 feet on the ground man.
Yes, yes, yes.
Indeed. So, man, I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Indeed. Just real people, real convo.